None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. 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 If one of us is chained, none of us are free. There are people in darkness, they just can't see the light. If we don't say it's wrong, then that says it's right. We got to feel for each other, let our brothers know we're here. Got to get the message, send it out all loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. It's the single truth we all need to see. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. Well, I swear to you, salvation isn't very hard to find. None of us can find it on our own. We got to join together, spirit, heart, and mind. So all the souls who are suffering know they're not alone. Ooh, 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 ooh. None of us are free. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 none of us are free. If you just look around you, you're gonna see what I say, that the world's getting smaller each passing day. It's time to make some changes. It's time we all realize that the truth is shining right before our eyes. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. It's the very heart of humanity. None of us are free. If one of us is chained, none of us are free. None of us, 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 none of us are free.
Hey, welcome. Good evening. My name is Morgan the Mogul, and this is Communiversity. Now, I do have a slight announcement right quick, is that I'm not typically the host. Our lovely Miss Shafi is typically the host, and her voice is a little low, a little hoarse, so I'm taking over for her tonight. So I will ask for a little grace, as I may lack the level of poise that she normally brings to these series of meetings that we've been going on. All right, so with that out the way, let's see. We are workers education or education and leadership development institutions centered around the Black working class. And tonight, we're continuing our series of the Black community through the lens of the Black woman worker. Over the last few months, every fourth Monday, we've been continuing to look into the overall issues of our community, from, everyday overall, excuse me, from nurses to CNAs to secretaries to sub and even regular teachers to bus drivers and the factory worker. We've been looking at the penal system, housing, and the workplace. And this evening, we're looking at culture and media. How does the mainstream corporate culture affect how we look, how we feel, how we breathe, how we move? I mean, we're talking about issues from the P. Diddy and Nicki Minaj and all what's happening on right now. We're taking a look at all of this stuff. And when it comes to our culture, it's copied from everywhere, but we rarely get the credit for it. So what happened to the old school love songs and Sunday dinners? And how do we feel about this culture? How do we use culture to resist and, like resist and build? And, here's a good one, right? What about Black hair overall, right? Straight locks, natural weave, all of it, right? And our guests tonight are talking about these things and more in whole, right? And we have the lovely Miss Lucy Murphy, longtime singer with the DC Labor Corps, all around activist and cultural worker and quote unquote troublemaker. That's actually in there, by the way. So let me say that's official. We also have Miss Nathanette Mayo, and she's with the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble and members of Black Workers for Justice, past president of the North Carolina Public Service Workers Union, United Electrical Workers Union Local 150. And we'll keep the usual format for our guests, each speaking about 10 minutes or so. We'll have some inspiring music in between and transition with more great, powerful performance, and then our conversation and Q&A. All right. So our first speaker is Miss Lucy, if you want to take it over. There you go.
Good evening, everybody. I get to go first because, it's age before beauty. And the lovely Nathanette will follow. Um, in keeping with the sisterly perspective of this evening, I'd like to say the husband of Eslanda Good, Robeson, was quoted as saying, "The artist must elect to fight for freedom or for slavery. I have made my choice. I had no alternative." Eslanda's husband, Eslanda's husband's passport was taken away, and his artistic career, which was largely supported by his international tours, was crippled by the U.S. State Department's action. He accompanied the husband of Louise Thompson Patterson in their efforts to bring the United States before the United Nations for documented crimes of genocide. The proof of genocide is contained in the document "We Charge Genocide," which Mr. Patterson and Mr. Robeson presented to the UN in New York in December 1951. After taking the document to Paris, Mr. Patterson's passport was also seized, and his legal career suffered from U.S. government attacks. The artist must elect to fight for freedom or for slavery. Slavery has been so transformed in the modern era that it is not even recognized as slavery. We have become slaves to celebrity worship, to commercialized forms of so-called beauty. We have become slaves to consumerism, buying things we don't need to impress people we don't know, and accepting wages which have not increased significantly since the 1970s, while the cost of living has doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. A house which cost $35,000 in 1970 now is sold for $750,000. You math and arithmetic people can do something with those two figures. Wages have not increased to meet the cost of living. If artists and writers are able to obtain an education and hone their skills like Robeson and Patterson, they are forced with the choice of the shiny apple of serving a system which denigrates African people, or the choice to uplift the Black community. If they belittle or attack our own people, the system may reward them with social status and comfort. If they strive to uplift or unify our community, defending our human rights, they're subject to psychological and even physical attack, false charges, and criminal prosecution, as in the case of Assata Shakur. The commercial music industry is very skillful in using the media to reward artists who attack their own people and celebrate violence. Hip hop and rap, which began as a form of community expression and gave youth a peaceful way to compete with each other, have been twisted to glorify misogyny and violence in the community. Our culture has been turned on us, and immature artists hungry for fame and fortune are willing puppets. Culture has been taken out of our hands to serve the empire. Access to music and art education was severely curtailed by President Ronald Reagan beginning in 1981. Something so essential to human development was called a frill and eliminated from public school curricula. Middle-class parents have been able to supplement these activities for their children, but the majority of Black children are not middle class. There is a myth that some people have talent and others don't. What makes a good artist is the desire to do art. The desire motivates the artist to work and develop a skill. Being exposed to art and music live in one's environment makes all the difference. Artists are not born, artists are forged. In an environment which respects all human beings, in an environment which respects more human beings more than money, in an environment which respects all human beings more than money, we would recognize and encourage the creative abilities in everyone. Malcolm X observed that slavery had taught us to hate ourselves and love our masters. He said that we hated our appearance. We wanted to look more like Europeans. Artists who work for freedom show us how to love ourselves. Performing artists like Miriam Makeba, Nina Simone, and Odetta called on our people to love our hair by wearing their hair in its natural glory, not abusing it with hot combs or chemicals. In a society which is founded on murder, theft, and greed, we confront a lot of negative attitudes. The only way that we can maintain our sanity is to join with others of like mind on a regular basis. I suggest that everyone, according to their taste, form or join a chorus, a band, a sports team, or a dance group in order to get together and do something for fun, not money, and at the same time have a meaningful personal dialogue with others in the group about things that matter. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. All right. We are going to switch over to Nathan in just a moment.
Are here to say the time is right, let's organize today. Organize. We're tired of being used and exploited. Get up, stand up, wake up, we'll be doing it. Oh, we're going to organize, organize, organize. Oh, yeah. Organize, organize.
One way that Fruit of Labor is different from other singing groups is that we grew out of an organization, a mass organization, a movement that was going on here in the South, particularly in North Carolina, specifically in North Carolina. And we get our direction from that organization.
Sing songs for workers' rights. We're here to stay, we're not fly by night. You need to be afraid to organize. We gotta push forward.
All right.
All right.
Let's go ahead and switch over to Nathanette.
All right. I don't know if I can go for 10 minutes, but we'll make it do what it does. All right. I'm Nathanette again. I'm with the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble, which is the cultural arm of Black Workers for Justice. The singing ensemble, as Lucy was saying, it's up to the artist to determine how we do what we do. And one of the things that the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble does is we have a cultural commission called we have a cultural commission where we bring artists together and we talk about what it is that we do as artists and the importance of what it is that we do and how is what we're doing bringing the community forward. How are we using our music, using the art, if we're visual artists, if we're dancers, if we're storytellers, if we are not just musicians, but all of the forms of creativity that we have as a people, how are we using that to make this world better than how it was when we received it? And that's one of the visions of our Truth and Justice Cultural Commission. If we're not doing that, then we really need to rethink what it is we're doing as artists. We're talking about the media and how media has taken over and kind of warped a lot of the art that we do as community artists, as worker activist artists, cultural workers, and how we need to take back our narratives and the work that we do in a way that will benefit us as a community. Now, with the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble, we have a cultural center called the Fruit of Labor World Cultural Center, and we see that as an important place for the community to come to meet artists, to talk about the issues that we're concerned with, whether it's workers and conditions that we have on the workplace, whether it's in our community and striving for might be affordable housing, maybe safety in our community, maybe just programs and things that our children need in our community. But it's a place for us to come and talk about and strategize about what our concerns are in our community and how to build and develop our own resolutions to those problems and how to hold those people that we elect accountable to our communities too. So when we talk about culture, we look at it as how do we use culture in organizing our communities? How do we use culture in organizing our workplaces? How do we use culture, in essence, as I said before, to lift our communities up, to inspire us, to educate us, to get us engaged in organization, and to also, in essence, our liberation can come through how we use our culture to build our people up. So with the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble, a lot of the music that we do, a lot of the original music that we produce comes directly out of struggles in communities and in workplaces. So when you talk about women and cultural workers and the work, the kind of art that we produce, we look at what's happening in our communities, and it comes from a history too. With me particularly, it comes from a history from the community that I'm from of women who were the movers and shakers, who were the political powerhouse in my community, and those women knew exactly what they were doing when they came together and they had a quilting session. They were using that particular form of art to document the history of our community, of their families in the quilts that they made. They use it when we all came together, when they got together to do the quilting itself, to tell the stories, the historical stories, and the stories of struggle that went on through our community. And they also used it as an opportunity to do some organizing and strategizing and planning for the future. Um, one of the organizations in my community was the Women's Home Extension Club. And that was, you know, it was taking a format that the county had set up and how, traditional women are supposed to, take care of stuff in the home. But they were a very strong political organization because that is the organization that did the strategizing and organizing with one of the folk from Black Workers for Justice who came in to help the community organize it. Those women were the ones who actually fought to make sure we got clean water in the community, who actually fought to bring the community together to build power, to hold those elected officials with the county, with the state government, to hold them accountable. But for us, one of the ways that they always started their meetings was with song, with rejoicing, with music. And always at the meeting, there was always food, there was always serious discussion, but it was done in a way where everybody was welcome to speak, everybody was expected to speak, and everybody was expected to participate. And they encouraged people in doing that and how the environment that the meeting took place in. And at the end of the meeting, there was always song, there was always joy, there was always, you know, inspiring people to go out and do the work that needed to be done, in order to make the progress that the community wanted. If we wanted clean water, we had to go out and we had to fight for it. We had to, stop the folk that were coming in and digging the water lines, and we had to stand in front of those people to, at a press conference to make sure that folk knew that the community was not just laying down and we were fighting for the things that our community needed. So how are we using the music or what we produced, the songs that the Fruit of Labor wrote? We wrote a song about Shiloh. Um, and so the artist has the responsibility to document that history in the art that we produce. To tell our stories the way that we see our stories and not having somebody tell our stories for us. So the artist also has a responsibility to be active in, engaged in their communities, engaged in the struggle, and not tell it from afar, but actually participate in it. So we're preserving history. You have, women, and we had this discussion too. We had women in, I think personally, if it wasn't for women being involved in the civil rights movement, and actually, even though it was born out of a sexist, women being secretaries, the women are the keepers of history because they wrote those histories of everything that took place, all of the struggles that took place, all of the strategies that took place, the victories. Those things are recorded by the women who took the notes in those meetings. And I don't think we really realize that a lot of our history would have not been gathered, would have not been written, would have not been told if it weren't for the women who were there in those meetings taking those notes and interpreting what was being said. So that's another way to think of the artists, the women, as writers. What are we writing? How are the words that we're putting on paper? How are, the songs that we're writing, the lyrics that we're writing, the stories that we're writing, the poems that we're writing? How is that used to encompass or tell our history, but also to encourage us to, really think about what's going on around us and strategize and come up with a way forward on how we can see our communities moving. So how far I
No,
let's open it up for discussion.
no, you're good. I just, kind of a few questions and things like that to kind of keep everything moving. Um, I believe Lucy mentioned something about um, essential to the human development called frill. And I was hoping you could better explain what frill is and was. You're on mute, by the way.
Um, well, reading, writing, and arithmetic were considered the essential um, things that students in public schools should focus on. And art and music and theater were considered frills, something that, rich people did, but, regular folks needed to focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that's how the Republicans under Ronald Reagan's leadership moved people away um, from budgets that included art and music. Um, and it's really, I remember when I was in school in the 50s and 60s, we had art and music, and we even had instruments that were lent to us for free for the year while we learned the instrument from a teacher who taught as part of the public school curriculum. The music teacher was hired, was a regular teacher, and we got the classes for free. Um, this is, it's because these people don't value humanity, because art and music are such an essential part of children's development, and it's what makes us different from the other beings on this planet, that we have art and theater and music.
So on that note, and I would open this up to anybody, would you now argue that we're looking at the same thing in the sense of the push towards STEM in academics, right? Is that our equivalent to the three R's that was happening during that time?
Now, certain folks want to put art in STEM and they make it STEAM, but that's not everybody. It's so few people get the benefit of art and music these days, and our music has suffered.
I would definitely agree our music has suffered. I've definitely crossed several TikTok type style posts and they're like, what happened to all the R&B music from our, well, I'm from the 90s, so from our time period, but also, from the earlier periods too of, Luther Vandross and the Earth, Wind, and Fire. They're asking all those questions too, right? We're also asking what happened to all the like punk rock bands of the 90s and things like that. So people are definitely noticing, I would say, the lack of, I guess, artistic
Definitely,
element.
if you didn't get it in school, then you didn't get it at all. Because a lot of, as Lucy was saying, a lot of people did not have private music lessons. We did play the recorder in school, and so that was the first taste of learning them. There was chorus in school, um, and if you weren't, involved in a church or a chorus outside of church or outside of school or something like that, that was the only time that you were exposed to art. Um, so that I see that has, yes, had a profound effect on, you know, our youth coming up, learning an instrument, learning to sing as a choir, different parts of music. If you don't get it in your home, I was lucky enough, my father was a what they called years ago, professor of music, and he taught shape note singing, and my family was a family that sang every time we got together, and we still do. Every time we get together, somebody's gonna break out in a song somewhere. Um, but not a lot of children are exposed to that. And so you don't get the the history in the music. You know, what we see here on the radio today is, you know, for the benefit of an industry to make money, not for the benefit of building a people, a conscious people, to critically think about things that are going on, to really ask questions and, you know, encourage. You know, sometimes you hear a song and makes you want to go back and, you know, find out what was going on, read the liner notes. We don't even have liner notes to read anymore. um you want to go back to find out what was going on in the area, what motivated people to write that song, what's this song really about, what's the a little more about the story that the song is telling. We don't really have that a lot more today. So there's a real need for us to look at ways to get back to how we're using our culture to benefit our
And
people.
I'd like to say we don't have it in the United States, but other countries have it. When I traveled to Greece, the Greeks didn't have enough money to order up a bunch of musicians from the United States, but they ordered up a bunch of musicians from Bulgaria. And these musicians were highly trained jazz musicians. They had learned to play their instruments and to play jazz from listening to the Voice of America. And of course, they had studied reading and writing music. And the government of Bulgaria gave them jobs. They taught students in the morning and they practiced with themselves in the afternoon. And then the state sent them out different places, and they were able to have a regular salary and support their families, support their households, um, and you know.
Yeah. Shafi has a question right quick that so what about being told our history isn't important, but we constantly get fed European history, the church as a pipeline for exposing our talent, the choir Easter Sunday program where children had to get up and speak.
Hmm.
Yeah, I specifically remember starting from a young, maybe 5 years old, everybody was given a speech. So even if it was, we welcome you once, we welcome you twice, we welcome you three times, welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, so it encouraged, it taught us, you know, first how to get up in front of a crowd, how to speak, how to have poise, how to have courage. I mean, it took a lot of courage for a 5 or 3 or 2 year old to get up and just say hi. But it taught us that, it taught us the skill of, you know, just the poise, the skill of what I have to say is important, you know, that what I say, I'm an integral part of this program, an integral part of the whole, and without what I'm doing, then the real message of everything, everybody, the all what we can do together doesn't really get out. So it was the beginning of teaching um, young children, you know, what the sense of community was and how we all had a role to play and all needed to play our role in order for our community to be successful.
And the follow-up question was that we're being told that our history isn't important and we're constantly getting fed European history, but also European beauty standards, right? Like this is our conversation, if you will, about natural hair, flat irons and perms and locks and weave and wigs and all of the above.
They've even twisted the natural hairstyles, the braiding, we're importing hair or using a lot of long synthetic hair to braid into people's, braids, so that, it's there's more Asian hair in some of these African hairstyles than African hair. Um, the whole preoccupation with hair length, um, because Europeans have long hair, or some of them do, a lot of them do, or they can, have long hair. Um,
All
and
right.
of course, the skin lighteners, the skin lightening cream industry is not going out of business anytime soon.
All right. So we definitely want to get into all of that stuff. We're going to take like a 2-minute break. We're going to do a song, and then we're going to come back and we're going to open up Q&A for everybody. We want this to be a really large discussion. We want to hear your thoughts, your opinion, questions that you have for the speakers, experiences, and questions that you have for each other. All right. So 2 minutes. All right. We're going to jump straight into the Q&A. I want to hear from everybody. You got questions, you've seen something. We're all on social media. Let's not pretend we haven't seen some stuff. So I know, right, that we have some questions, some ideas, some comments. We left off with the skin bleaching alone. That's a conversation.
So, Morgan, let me just say before we get started on that, the music that you heard before was a remixed version of Lift Every Voice and Sing that the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble is working on and recording. Um, that song, and when we talk about culture and how it's uplifting our community, we saw the need to really remix that song because when we sang that song, every time we sang it and we heard other people singing it, it they tended to sing it like it was a funeral dirge. Um, just down, and the burden was so hard and so heavy, and we weren't really sure if we were going to make it. We decided for us, it's a victory song. It's a song where we're taking our power. We know what our power is. We're taking it. We're fighting. We know the victory is coming. It might not be here tomorrow, but we know good and daggone well that we're going to get victory. So we took the song, or we wanted to see it as a song of power, a song of inspiration, a song of elation and joy, and that we know the light is coming in the morning, and the win and the victory is coming in the morning. So look for that on our upcoming album that we're doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the insight. Definitely had no idea. We'll definitely have to post your album when it comes out. I'll share it. Yes. All right.
Good.
So opening up the floor to any Q&A, any topics of discussion.
I'm curious. I have I Martin Luther King Children's Choir, the All Children's Choir, which was started by Coretta Scott King after, I guess, to begin to push for Martin Luther King to have a holiday. Served 40 years, directed by oh God, I can't remember Randy Shepard, part of the Oberlin district. They called me last week and said that Randy is retiring, and then Randy called me back a week, and I'm like, well, who's gonna take over? And Randy called me back a week later and said, well, Tamisha, we're just the All Children's Choir has served its purpose, and we're just gonna disband the choir.
No.
And so I will have a meeting with them on Saturday. I do their website and I've covered their concerts. When I first got to Raleigh, I was very impressed because I'm from Alabama to see the All Children's Choir, to see them perform for noonday, to see over 100 kids in their robes, to then work closely with this choir. They've been participating with our Juneteenth event. And Randy said, post COVID, only a third of the churches are full. So it leads me to think, and that's why I'm so glad that Shafia has the vision for Communiversity, because it looks like, in addition to this large um, new industrial revolution, we're going through the revolution of communities. What the church wanted, because you started off seeing what the church did with students and children, having schools in the 60s. We weren't quite I think I was born in 75, so I went to school with desegregation. And so you didn't I think I went to I think my preschool was a black school, which I kind of picked up that lovingness from having those black preschool teachers. But I'm just curious to see, like, 40 years, this choir was a part of the community, part of raising children. I mean, kids came back and were like, brought their children back to the choir. But COVID just kind of killed the momentum. So what is it that we as the community must do? Because we know that the civil rights movement was broken apart with black exploitation, and then that began to influence our music. So you have the United States in turmoil. They're fighting for justice and liberty. You kill off the civil rights leaders, and then you replace it with this new mega superstar with a Whitney Houston and and Michael Jackson that then reigned for 20 years, and then they're mysteriously unalived. So what is it that, as we look at this large new revolution in industry, in our communities, like, what's our place in that? How do we, how do we go into a metamorphosis where we are able to maintain community and culture, aside from the church and the schools where we used to get it? What does that look like? I know for sure Shafi it looks like Communiversity, but how does it look like past Communiversity?
So here in Raleigh and across the state, there are places called movement centers that are being developed. And our cultural center is a movement center where you can have youth come, or we have youth come, where the high holy days for us are Juneteenth, ML King celebration, Kwanzaa celebration, African Liberation Day. We have the International Working Women's Day. Those are celebrations that we make sure that we have here every single year. And whether it's indoors or outdoors, we celebrate with song, with music, with stories of struggles that are going on in our communities and in our workplaces, and invite the consciously go out, whether we're passing out flyers in the community, but inviting the community to come and participate, and participate in the dancing, participate in the singing, do poetry, whatever it is that everyday people in our community do. I'm not going to say artists because everybody's an artist. Whatever it is that they do, come here and participate in it and see it as a space where art takes place, but also where community takes place too. So just creating centers like that, I think, and reimagining how we can use those centers to certainly boost and benefit our communities, but also hold on to our history and also build that sense of community in young people, and teaching young people how to use our culture to as I keep saying, benefit our communities and hold on to our histories. Um,
I go
so
along with Nathanette. And Nathanette and I are both part of the National Black Workers
Center. Mhm.
Center. And when 1DC bought the building at the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Howard Road, um, I said, every black institution has to have a musical group, just like the Fisk Jubilee Singers. The Jubilee Singers saved Fisk. Um, and this is part of music, is so deeply part of our culture. Um, so I direct the 1DC Black Workers Center chorus. Um, I learned a lot of what I know in church, and like many people, I no longer attend church, but I recognize that I learned a lot of important things. I was in an institution that was multi-generational, that was passing information from generation to generation, um, and it provided support for so many activities. We have to find other institutions. Those of us who no longer attend church need to find other institutions like Communiversity, like Fruit of Labor Center, World Culture Center, and and we need to support our institutions, which is difficult because people are moving so much and people are being dislocated, and neighborhoods are being destroyed. So it's hard to hold on, but we need to hold on to our institutions, um, and have our choruses and bands and dance groups, and theater groups based there.
So some of the, oh, do you want to go? I was going to read your comment, Laura. If you want to read it, that would be amazing. There's some good comments going on in chat. So,
Well, I was actually thinking of something else just now, which is networks. One of the things we have now that we didn't have in the past is the ability to do more with networking nationally. And Nathanette, when you were talking about this holidays, and we could probably come up with a couple more, some maybe are regional, but some are national. Thinking about a songbook, so to speak, or a network that says, here's the songs for, this holiday, that holiday. And so it's true, people are moving and we're losing some of our community. But I'm inspired to think about cultural networks because there's people out there everywhere doing little things. And if we could connect them around some of this culture, and singing is amazing. I mean, one of the things that, this is related but different, that I work with a group called the Mid-Hudson Anti-Slavery History Project that talks about the history of enslavement in the North. People say, oh, I didn't know that was the guy, So we talk about that. And one of the things that we've done in the past is we had a abolition song group as a way of teaching that history. Because when people hear the music, they learn something. It's another way of teaching a history lesson. As I know, Lucy and Nathanette, your songs teach. They don't just emote, they teach, right? So can we maybe starting with this here through the Communiversity or other places, create this network that people can connect and learn some songs and find other people to teach them other songs. It's a kind of networked freedom school, the Freedom Song School, or something like that. I just think there's potential there. Just listening to you tonight, I'm moved, and I could think like, let's get some people to talk to you, and get these songs and make a book and do something like that.
Now, I know Nathanette and the Fruit of Labor have done a tour
Mhm.
sharing their music uh, through several states. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Nathan, and if you've got a tour coming up.
In fact, that's in this climate, that's one of the things that we've been talking about lately with the Fruit of Labor is the need for music for the soul. The soul needs music. We're in a state now where there's a lot of just moral sickness going on, and what's happening in this country. Um, and we're envisioning a tour and planning a tour, particularly with a lot of the new music that we're producing, a tour around, starting in North Carolina, but going around, just talking and bringing people together with the different struggles, taking those struggles out of isolation, but using the music to not only document those struggles and, like I said, bring them out of isolation, but also, you know, inspire people and, like I said, encourage people to get involved and help people envision what liberation would look like for us as a people. Uh, so yeah, uh, going around the country, you know, making sure that not only just music, but you know, acting, dancing, poetry, short films, all of those ways to be creative. How are we using those to build our people up? Make people, help them, give them courage to continue on, but to also to fight against those forces that would oppress us. So yeah, I like the a freedom book idea, music book idea, a freedom school song.
um, awesome. I'm reading through some of the awesome comments that we're getting in the chat. If you guys aren't aware, um, Miss Valerie mentions that that we know that this is like the propaganda slash media is the fourth arm of destructive um, white supremacists and all of those things. And that, they're not really interested in education and things like that for us. I also want to tag in and mention things just kind of about like how are we going to keep up with mainstream media? Like how are we, going to share this message of music? I mean, the average youth, right? I don't know if I count myself in youth anymore, but that's not the point. It's kind of a like, how do we talk to them, right? Because I've never heard of Nathan S. Band until I became connected with Communiversity. Does that mean the only way I would ever have learned about this music was to have been connected to this type of movement, this type of organization? And then if that's the case, how are we, getting, like I said, youth or whatnot, spreading that message so that they know.
Again, it's really difficult because at one point we had community radio stations, and actually we still have community radio stations, but the younger people don't listen to radio. They're listening to podcasts and other forms of solitary listening. The radio offered us a way that a whole group of people could hear the same thing at the same time. And there's a power in that. I wish we could encourage more young people to listen to the radio and support community radio. We have a wonderful station here in Washington called WPFW. I know in Atlanta there's Radio Free Georgia. There's probably something in Raleigh too, but I no.
No, there's nothing in Raleigh.
Used to be. I don't,
Oh.
not that I know of anymore.
It probably failed due to lack of support. But maybe we have to figure out how to get on the podcasts and the Sirius whatever, Sirius XM, or even though that's very difficult because they're pushing a whole nother direction. Um, but as people get involved in organizations and movement organizations, they will find the movement culture, and they will hopefully make the movement culture happen.
And I think a lot of it too is starting at very young ages. What music are we playing for our children? What are they listening to? How are we building a culture of wanting to actually listen to music with the message? Um, my grandson, when he stays with me at night, we are listening to social justice music and we're singing it before we go to bed. So he knows all of the songs that Fruit of Labor sings. He sings If I Had a Hammer. So he's learning those things, those songs from a very early age. When we're in my car and I'm consciously playing music with the message, he's sitting in the back and he's singing along with the chorus. So we have to start with young children, even in our families, our grandkids, our nieces, our nephews. What music are we playing when they come, when they are around, when we're around them? What are they listening to? Do we get up on Sunday mornings and put on, what kind of music did we put on for people to listen to? My husband gets up every Sunday morning and he plays some Nina Simone or uh, even Paul Robeson, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Just a real diverse artists who are all doing social justice music or music with a message. So we have to consciously think what we're teaching or what we're letting our children listen to.
Okay. Valerie, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to say something?
Yes, thanks, Cheryl. Please. Um, I was on another call, that's why I wasn't interacting before. So thank you for the space, Sister Shafia and the Communiversity. I just wanted to speak to what Sister Nathanette, did I say your name right?
Yes, Nathanette. Mhm.
Nathanette, when she spoke about music, and I think that's so important what you said, because like I grew up, um, my mother was an activist, so I grew up listening to like Tracy Chapman and Bob Marley and Serious Business. And I'm from New York City, I'm from Brooklyn. So we will always, those groups, like particularly Serious Business, who, Sister Jaruba's in Mississippi, and brother,
Ngoma.
her husband's name slips my mind, or her ex-husband, what's the brother?
I think she said Anguma.
Goma and Goma
And
and Goma
yes,
Hill.
and Goma Hill, yes. Thank you so much, sis. Yeah.
We
So
were
it's so
all in
funny.
People's Music Network in the 80s.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, so we were connected to that music, listening to that when I was younger. So when I got older, when I had moved, I had left New York, came back, and when I started doing work with political prisoners, and Goma, um he was on one of our CDs that we did for Sekou Odinga. And I told him, I was like, I listened to your music when I was younger, and all the music, their music was about, the murder of no bumpers, and Malcolm lives in the people's struggle, all these things that I carry with me today. And I think someone on here mentioned about the radio. The radio is just shitty music. The music that the kids are listening to now, it's terrible. And I think someone mentioned on the chat, that these radio stations that's pushing this music, is not only hip hop, but my point is that, hip hop in when we talking about real hip hop, it was speaking, the truth and pushing, positivity. KRS One, X Clan, Queen Latifah. So that all shifted, but that was deliberate. So we have to, when we talk about have this conversation, we have to be very clear that that's COINTELPRO. And so when we think about even our education system and how we used to have community control, we don't have that anymore. And if we do, we have to fight for it. So that plays a part in the fact that there's no arts. That's all deliberate. That's why our children don't have any creativity and they're not using their brains anymore, because there's no art in schools, there's no music programs. I was in the band from when I was like in grade school all the way through high school. I'm 50 years old, but so, those are things that, so I taught my children, and, I have a grandbaby. I teach her now. We listen to Tracy Chapman, Bob Marley, like they know the songs. So just the importance of, carrying on the legacy, but also wherever we are, we have to, build community to have these conversations. And also, sister asked me to talk about COINTELPRO. So COINTELPRO, was an FBI um, program that targeted not just organizations and individuals, but and movements, but just in terms of how we relate to each other. Obviously, COINTELPRO created political prisoners, um, murder, murder, framing, incarceration for decades of political prisoners and activists like Sekou Odinga, Russell Ramon Schultz, and I'm actually on the campaign to free Kamal Siddiqui. That's the meeting I was on. So I hope I spoke to COINTELPRO as you wanted me to. But thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts, and thank you, Sister Nathanette and Sister Lucy, for sharing what y'all shared, and everyone else here. Peace.
Thank you for sharing. We always love to hear from everybody.
Please
Luna.
take a look. Please take a look at Pacifica Radio, Pacifica.com, because some of the programs are heard on other community stations, which you may have some of the programs in your neighborhood. But unfortunately, NPR has been taken over. I hear, horrible anti-Venezuela, anti-Cuban things on NPR, but you're not going to hear that on Pacifica, and you still have the voices of the people. Radio is a much cheaper medium than television, and so a community can support a radio station. We don't have to take the commercial BS. That's it for me.
Okay, that's actually something maybe to even look into, what the actual might cost to run a small radio, station. We'll jot that down in notes, right, Shafia? There we go. Muna, I saw you had your hand raised. Do you still want to say something? Maybe. Okay, so it is technically 8 o'clock, actually 8:07, and we're supposed to technically end at 8. So I do want to honor that. If you would like to leave, you certainly can. We thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to stay, you have just a few more questions or something that you really want to share, with the group and the community that is here. We will give you guys a few more minutes, if you will, to extend that and have that conversation. There you go, Mona. I see your hand now raised again. You are on mute. I'm going to unmute you. Apparently, I can only ask to unmute.
Hello?
Okay.
I couldn't figure out how to do it. One of the ideas that I had that I remember when I lived in New York, there was a woman by the name of Jessie Maple that had a brownstone on 120th Street, and it would seat about 25 people. And she would do these movie nights. And it would be nice if we could do something like that at the Communiversity or in other places where we were. There's so much material out there now that people haven't seen. I came across something today with Gil Noble, where this guy was talking about how he was an FBI informant and how he infiltrated all of these political organizations and the stuff and I was in shock. And I realized that there's so much information that people don't know. So it would be nice if we could figure out, how to do in small groups, how to do small movie nights, because there's a lot of information out there. There's lectures by Dr. John Henrik Clarke and other folks that I think would help stimulate people, because what I realize is people just don't know that there's information or there's different information. So if there was a way that we could figure out how to do that and to bring children, because back in the day, people always brought their children. And I don't know if people still do that anymore. My kids are grown, but that would be a way, I think, to help get people out, or to figure out how to take some of these films. I don't know. I was going to say into schools, but I don't know. That might be a little iffy. But I would love to see some kind of a small movie nights or something being hosted in small groups. And then we could have discussions, sort of like people used to do when I remember they would have small cadre meetings talking about political stuff. So that's it.
Muna, I would love that. We do the Fruit of Labor World Cultural Cinema, and show film and have discussions, and I would love to talk with you about doing that on a much broader, where we watch the movie in different places and have a discussion. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
In DC, we have some radical librarians, and we have a wonderful library system, which has, free meeting rooms of various sizes, and shows films and videos. So the library, where libraries exist, we really need to use the library resource. It's one of the few socialist features left in this society.
Una,
Um,
do you have a list of films that you're thinking of?
Well, there's so many. Like I said, when I'm on YouTube now, there are all these clips that start coming up. So this thing that came popped up with Gil Noble and this guy talking about it, he was an informant. When I lived in New York back in the day, we would watch Like It Is every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. and it was very, very informative. But there are films like Sankofa by Haile Gerima, and other things like that. There's Quilombo by what's his name? Dieguez. I can't think of his name. It's in subtitles, but some of the subject matter of some of these films is just really, really amazing. And like I said, there are old clips of things like films like Nothing But a Man with Abby Lincoln and what's his name, Ivan Dixon. They're things that I think if kids or people were able to see some of these things, I think it would spark an interest. Cause like I don't do movies anymore, but I'll go back and watch a lot of old movies. So I'm sure we could get together and come up with quite a few things because there's everything's out on YouTube now.
If you go on Haile Garima's website, sankofa.com, there's a lot of very interesting information. And they do, at the bookstore, at the Sankofa bookstore, they do programs and they video record a lot of them. So you can see interesting things about the Congo, Sudan, Gaza, and Haiti, especially.
Mhm.
And that's big too. With my kids, I mean, they're like 20 and 15, but like when they were like 10, 11, 12, everybody had a movie. You know what I'm saying? Raleigh had a movie, Morrisville had a movie, the Cary Theater had a movie. So that was kind of what we did. We just kind of we just had a movie and we would just catch the movies and they would start like from spring to like October. So you could catch a movie every weekend from like springtime to like October, somebody's summer series. You had the North Raleigh had a summer series, downtown Raleigh had a summer series. I mean, just in Raleigh alone, you had so many, and Apex had some, and Cary had some. So it would be cool for, Rocky Mount to be able to take that space because, parents of children look for things to do like that that's free and family fun, and that was like the only family oriented thing you could do outside of going to the skating ring, where I bought them this big blow and we made it, made it fun, and that's one of the things that they really remember, thinking about when we would go and see movies. So I know that's a big thing for people. There's actually a market for that, families looking for things to do with their children.
Mhm.
So, and
We
Gaza,
can teach them a song after, right? Nathanette. Before and after, we can teach them a freedom song.
oh, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. And Gaza's here. He's been listening to the program today. He's do you want to say something?
I just want to
Gaza sings with the Fruit of Labor Singing Ensemble. And it's,
I just want to thank y'all for
I don't know if they
this.
can hear you. Can y'all hear him?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we can hear.
Okay.
but
I,
we can't see him.
oh, no, I still need to see me. You sisters have had such a very dynamic and enlightening discussion that I was taking notes. That's why I've been silent. You mentioned so many things that we have to follow up on, and one of which is to study the Black liberation and Black freedom movement of the 60s and 70s that produced so much of our very socially conscious culture, but oftentimes the women leaders have been on the cultural front during the 60s and 70s. They sang, but they weren't projected as leaders. But when we look at BAM, the Black Arts Movement, which I was very fortunate in the late 60s and 70s to have ran upon Sister Nikki Giovanti, who was in New York at the time, and Sister Kimako Baraka, Amira Baraka's sister, who was a playwright at the House of Kuumba on 114th Street and Lenox Avenue, and Sister Amina Baraka, who is a uh, legendary poet and she oftentimes wound up in the shadow of Amiri Baraka, which she said, and also Sonia Sanchez. These four pillars were very important in the Black Arts Movement, better known as BAM. And one thing I learned from them, sitting and coming to their gatherings, is the importance of cultural artists. And by the way, the Fruit of Labor is not a band, it is a cultural worker organization. It is a cultural worker organization, as we were taught by Sister Dr. Bernice Reagan. She told us that we're not just artists in a band, that we're cultural workers. We're part of a cultural workers organization. So that's what the Fruit of Labor is, by the way. We study.
Gaza, there's nothing wrong with being a band.
I'm just telling you who we are.
You're breaking up now.
It's breaking up.
Yeah. Nathan, you're breaking up real bad.
I had to say something. The children's chorus or the children's choir that's about to close. Jane Sapp had a wonderful children's chorus, and I think it's recorded on in a documentary up in Massachusetts of mostly black children in a school, in a neglected school where she was teaching. And uh, Crystal Harding is another children's chorus leader who leads because her children were asking politicians questions that made them uncomfortable. She was relieved of her post at the school where she was teaching, but she has taken the chorus outside of, since they put her out. She called the children to be a community chorus to maintain that cohesion that they had developed. So would suggest Jane Sapp and Crystal Harding as people to talk to about getting some new leadership for that chorus that is in danger of closing.
What are their names again?
Jane Sapp. Jane was at one time at Highlander in Tennessee with her husband Hubert. Um, and SAPP is her last name. And the other chorus director is Crystal Harding. And both of them have things on YouTube. If you put their names in YouTube, you'll see.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been called in to do the not a documentary, but now that you're saying documentary, seems like I probably need to take a little bit more information. But I mean, I actually got where they were putting Bruce Leitner. They actually dedicated a plaque for the Martin Luther King statue in Raleigh to Bruce Leitner, and he told the story of when Coretta Scott King came here, and they pulled together the plan to be able to pull the choir together, and it's just amazing to see this much history, just the end of an era, um and to see that they have said that they feel like it served its purpose because they don't have the enrollment. They used to get 100 kids easy for the choir every year, and since COVID, it's been a struggle, a huge struggle. So without church being the forwarding factor, that institution that kind of kept the kids together, we're just looking at, a third rate of churches attendance because people aren't attending the way that they used to attend prior to COVID. The churches haven't recovered yet.
Okay, so it is now 8:21. And so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can, continue this discussion in the future on another webinar. Ms. Nathanette has been with us a few times, and hopefully we can bring back Lucy and, redo a part 2 or something like that. Are there any announcements, Shafi? I've asked you about that.
Next month.
Oh, okay. So that one is join us for our next webinar. All of our webinars are always the fourth Monday of every single month. And we have a actual URL that never changes. It is always, always, always webinar.communiversity south, I think .org. Look out for our flyers. What is next month's? Do you know offhand?
The chat. Look at the chat.
Oh, okay. I see it. There we go. Next month is education. All right. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that education segment. No, I'm just messing with you. Okay. I'm gonna let you guys go. Everybody have a wonderful night, and you're on mute, Nathanette.
If you're in the Raleigh area, we're having our annual Kwanzaa celebration on the 28th from 2 to 5. We're inviting all the African American community and Africans across the diaspora to come and join us in that celebration.
Will it be streamed?
No, it will not. This is a in-person only thing, baby.
All right. And with that, I wish you all a very, very wonderful night, a great rest of your week.
Good night.
You can sing along.
Good night.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Come on, sing. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers, sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be just one in the number as we stand against tyranny. To me, young people come first. They come first. They have the courage when we fail. If I can just shine a light on as they carry us through the gale. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until. Come on and sing now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. I hear y'all that are singing. Come on.
All right. I wish everybody a good night.
Y'all did wonderful. Y'all were great. Thank you, Val.
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much, sis.
All right.
Take care. Have a good night, y'all.
Good night.